Good Saturday afternoon. It is December the 23rd, 2017. Welcome to this week's weekly weather briefing. If you haven't noticed it just yet, the theme of this is snowflakes, not only because of Christmas, but because we might be looking at our first snowflakes falling and flying around for the season on tomorrow, Sunday, December the 24th. Weekly highlights, what I just mentioned, those Sunday snow chances. We'll look at a lot of different things going into that. We have multiple systems to track this week and even going into next week as well. And we have below average temperatures just about all week long going into next week. 500 millibar long range pattern will be the last thing that we look at as we head into the very 1st of January. Sunday snow chances. Time of concern really is anywhere between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Now, the snow or rain won't be falling during that entire time, but during that time is when we are most favorable to see some snow or some raindrops flying around. So, with that being said, anywhere between around 8 a.m. and 1 p.m., we have a chance for some morning rain showers or some flurries. And then, really, between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. is when the best chance is for some snow. Between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m., we have some closing flurries that will be moving out of the area, I think, at that time. Sunday at 2 p.m., we're looking at the NAM 3KM model, and I don't agree with it on how intense it has the snow. It has some very intense snow in here, and I don't like that. I don't think it's going to be as intense as what this model is showing, but the reason I showed this map is because I agree on the placement of it. The placement shows further south than what some of the other models are showing, and I like that. I think the further south idea is the better idea. Forecasted soundings going into the next couple of days. Small chance of a rain-snow mix at the beginning. We'll take a look at this and the technicality behind it. High confidence that if we see any precipitation after 1 p.m., then it would fall as snow. So here's a forecasted sounding. It's very technical. I don't even understand half of the stuff that's on here. But Sunday at 12 p.m., this is the location that I chose right here in the purchase area. This is what the surface map looks like. A lot of the snow still off to our north and west. And we see dry air in the upper levels of the atmosphere. The way I see dry air is because this green line right here is a measure of moisture in the atmosphere. This is the dew point. And then we see the red line indicating the temperature. When we see those two far apart, that means dry air is in there. It's separating the two. Meanwhile, at the surface, they're close together, so it's pretty moist at the surface. The only problem is it's 37 degrees at the surface, but everything else going into the upper part of the atmosphere is left of this 32-degree line, which tells me that it's below freezing for most of the entire atmosphere until you get to the very bottom of it here at the surface, and it's just barely above freezing. So that means that this very shallow layer at the very beginning could provide the chance for a few raindrops mixing in there, some of those snowflakes that don't make it through that shallow layer of cold air and they melt before they get to the surface. Obviously, that would be in the form of rain, but I think most of the snowflakes will make it through that very shallow layer of warm air here at the surface. We go into 6 p.m. later on Sunday evening. We see that dry air slowly working its way down further to the surface, but look at our surface temperature. It's dropped to 31 degrees. Again, this is not all going to be exact. This is another model, just like any other model. This is not something that is to be taken at heart. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm trying to show you what the model is showing with this dry air. That's the main takeaway from these maps right here. With the temperatures being below freezing at the surface, that means that the entire atmosphere now it is below freezing rather, and we see that dry air slowly working its way further down, even at the surface. That drier air trying to work its way in, and we'll see the dew points at the surface by 6 p.m. here in just a second. With dry air working its way down like this, that means that we see a lot of the dry air situated at the upper parts of the atmosphere, and it slowly sinks southward. So with that being said, you might look at your radar Sunday afternoon. It shows a lot of intense snow, but the snow falling outside might not be near as intense as what your radar is showing. So that's something to keep in mind. With the dry air being at the upper part of the atmosphere and not the lower part, here at the surface like it usually would be in this kind of situation, then we just usually look at more or less intense snowfall rates than what your app might be showing. Forecasted dew points is showing that dry air coming in later on that evening. We see at 12 p.m. plenty of moisture at the surface, but we go to 6 p.m. a lot of that dry air has worked its way south and eastward. So some of those leftover flurries or snow showers might get eaten away by some of that dry air. This is the 500 millibar vort max, or the vorticity, is a measure of energy in the atmosphere, and that obviously the more energy you have, the better the chance of snow or rain. It doesn't depend on what kind of precipitation it is. But what we've seen over the last couple of days is the models have been shifting southward with the highest area of vorticity values, which is what we call our vort max. At the 500 millibar level, they have been shifting southward, which means that at the surface, you can expect that later model runs will begin to shift that area of snow more southward, and they have. We'll take a look at that going into the next couple of slides. This southern shift has supported the idea of more snow working its way into our portion of the country rather than just being situated in Illinois, Missouri, and Indiana. Originally, over the last couple of days, the models kept it up north of us. Now they're beginning to move south because the runs of the GFS model in particular have been trending southward with this area of Vortmax, and it has also been more amplified as well and has been moving further south. So this tells me that we have a better chance of seeing snow than we did a couple of days ago. Temperatures during the time of snow flying around the region would be anywhere between 34 and 37 degrees. There will be clouds moving in sometime during the day on Sunday. If these clouds move in just shortly after sunrise, temperatures are going to be just around freezing or below freezing on sunrise at Sunday morning. If those clouds move in just right after that sun comes up, we've reached our coldest temperature of the day. Temperatures will struggle to get above the freezing mark going into the afternoon hours. If we see those clouds move in, say around 9, 10 o'clock, temperatures could well by then already be close to 37 degrees, even higher than that. So with the clouds moving in, it will help to level off those temperatures, but the question is how quick do these clouds move in, and that will determine how warm we get for tomorrow. Either way you look at it, 34 or 37, the snow is going to melt when it hits the roadways, and so there will be some areas of will be some roads across the area where those roads could become a little icy on Sunday night, because look at those lows for overnight on Sunday night, 19 to anywhere between 19 24 degrees. That's very cold. If we see snow hitting the road, forms a trace amount of precip, just enough to wet the roadway, that turns into a glaze of ice overnight. No matter how thick it is, it's still very dangerous, so keep this in mind. Sunday at 2 p.m., the NAM 3KM model, which is what this is showing some very chilly temperatures, 32, 33 degrees for the time of the most intense snow tomorrow, which is something to consider. This model is the best out of all of the models, excluding the HER model, with predicting shallow, cold air. So this is one of those models that I take to heart a lot of times, and I shouldn't. But in this situation, it is something to consider. 33 degrees at 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, that's the heat of the day at this time of the year, and it won't get any warmer than this if this is what it's predicting at 2 p.m. So this is really what I think is going to happen. I think temperatures from 34 to 37, that they will stay closer to that 34, 35 degree range, which means that temperatures are going to support maybe some grassy elevated surfaces getting some snow, but roadways should just remain wet. Model disagreement is something that we have been looking at over the last couple of days, and even now we're less than 24 hours away and it's still happening. The one model that is the outlier right now, it keeps all of the snow to our north in Missouri, Illinois, Indiana. All of the models think that the heavy, steady snow stays to our north, which means the higher accumulations stay to our north. But we have the 4 other models, the GFS, Euro, and these aren't just all the other models. These are just the other 4 models that I picked in particular that are showing the snow all the way south into western Kentucky. So the NAM 3KM, the Canadian guidance at 12 p.m. tomorrow shows that snow to our west and to our north, but we get to 6 p.m., it shows that snow to our north and east. All of the models agree, like I just said, that the snow, the heaviest of it, stays to our north. That heavy, set-in, steady, moderate to heavy snow. We won't be looking at that. We will just be looking at scattered snow showers. Not everyone in our region is going to even see snow, but some of us will, and that's why I'm making such a big deal about this. Is not only is it our first snow for the season for most of us, but it's something that might be a little bit of a surprise too, which is what I'll talk about here in just a second. Snow accumulations is what everyone wants to know. I don't even like to say 1 inch. I don't think anybody sees 1 inch of snow, but I think that if we see any snow accumulate tomorrow, it would be on grassy surfaces and elevated surfaces only, with temperatures being above freezing. Dry air at the upper levels will help eat away at some of that snow, so not everything on radar is going to actually be at the surface, and it won't be as intense as what the radar is showing either. Soundings don't even get close to showing a moist atmosphere at the upper parts of the atmosphere, so that really does play a big role into tomorrow's snow chances. The Vortmax maps show that there might be a surprise in store. With those being so far south, it really makes me feel like the snow might be further south than what the surface model maps are predicting. So until the 500 millibar pattern and the surface model maps can come together and come into an agreement with each other, then I think that the confidence will begin to raise. But even at this point, I'm not very confident about tomorrow. The NAN 3KM model, I don't like the snow accumulations. I think it's going way too high, and it usually does. I think the idea that you need to take from this is that a trace amount to maybe up to an inch, and I don't even think anyone sees an inch, but just in case someone does, I have it there. So an inch or less of snow is what I'm predicting. The NAN 3KM is a little bit more bullish. It has an inch of snow pretty widespread across the purchase area, and I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that most of everybody is going to see some snowflakes tomorrow, but not everyone will. Multiple systems to monitor besides tomorrow on Sunday. Might be looking at some flurries on Tuesday evening. We also have a late week and a weekend system to monitor. Here's Tuesday at 12 p.m. The Canadian guidance and some of the NAM models as well, even the European, showing some snow showers or snow flurries to our north, which means that clouds will increase on Tuesday afternoon here. And with some cold cumulus clouds across the area, can't rule out a flurry. We also have another system, might be a little bit of a bigger one. Models have been sniffing it out over the last couple of weeks, really. A late week weekend system. Sometime in that time frame, around Friday, Saturday, Sunday of next week, we're looking at a possible storm system to be moving in. Models have gone back and forth between showing a system and not showing one, so there's really not even all kinds of confidence that we even see something. But I am mentioning it right now. Long range pattern. 500 millibar pattern is showing a southwest ridge. We're going back to that pattern that we were in at the beginning, or rather at the beginning of December, where we had that southwest ridge and a northwest to southeast elongated trough. So we're going back to that code pattern, but we're looking at probably not a lot of snow from it because it squashes those big storm chances, but it increases our odds for multiple clippers and shots of cold air. And we all know that the clippers at the beginning of the month, just about every one of them, every time that someone says there's a chance of clippers here, I can basically tell you that there's not going to be any snow because a lot of times clippers stay to our north and east, but that doesn't mean they can't move down here. On Wednesday the 27th, this isn't really out in the long range, but I'm just trying to show that northwest to southeast orientation because it's going to persist into the long range pattern past this week. You notice that southwest ridge in the northwest to southeast elongated trough. It gets even more defined on Friday, which increases the odds right in here for snow chances going into the end of the week. Here's a look at those well below average temperatures. And we are looking at a map that shows the probability of the minimum 2-meter temperature being less than 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So basically the probability of seeing single digits. And we are looking at a 70 to up to 80% chance probability, very high considering that we're still a week out from the coldest part of this entire outbreak. 15-day temperatures, here's your highs and here's your lows, showing that trend that we get colder, we stay cold, we bottom out for a while, slowly trend warmer as we go into the start of the new year. And your 7-day precipitation totals are showing this is a mix of rain and snow, of course, around 1/4 of an inch. Pretty sure that we need a break after most of us saw around 2 to 3 inches of rain across the purchase area yesterday. It was much needed, but we don't need any more after that, at least for a little while. So that's it for this week's weekly weather briefing. Hopefully we see some snowflakes fly tomorrow, but don't get too carried away with it. Not going to be a big event, and it's going to make it, at the most, feel the most magical for the area for Christmas Eve. And that leads me to say, have a Merry Christmas.